Hello. Yeah, my name is Joshua Ahuruma Esegbe, and I'm a PhD scholar studying right here in Edward University, Edinburgh, United Kingdom. I want to guide you through preparing a PTDF research proposal to get the PhD scholarship award. Now, the PTDF scholarship uh, proposal you need is actually a concise document, very brief, a 5-page document from the PTDF guidelines. Of course, when you read that on their website, it should not be more than a 5-page document. And it's actually divided into 4 or 5 parts, all right, 5 parts to be precise. You have the chapter 1, the chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5. Now, chapter 1 of your proposal is actually the introduction. Chapter 2 is the literature review. Then chapter 3 is the methodology. And then chapter 4 is the expected results. Because it's a proposal, it's going to be proposed expected results. And the last part, which you can call chapter 5, but you don't tag the chapter, is the list of references. Okay, now, so how do you prepare your proposal under these chapters? For the chapter 1 of your proposal, you see, chapter 1 is actually divided into 4 parts. You have your background to the study, you have a statement of the problem. The chapter 1 should also have the aims and the objectives of your research, and lastly, the scope of your research. Okay, and then chapter 2 is your literature review of literature, citing the authors you have researched on their work in preparing your proposal. And then on to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is the research methodology. Okay, and then chapter 4, like I've said, expected results. So these are the parts of the research proposal. And don't forget that all these segments has to be in a 5-page document. Your proposal should not exceed 5 pages. You shouldn't prepare very bulky, exhaustive material, making it boring and difficult for your prospective assessors to read. Nobody has that time to go through a very lengthy document. So you have to be very professional, very sensitive to space and time, and also ensure you don't miss out on the very important facts you need to capture in your research proposal. Now, what the interview panel is looking out for is the salient points, the very important points. Just tell them what you hope to do. I'll just maybe run through the chapters again. For your chapter 1, that's where you establish the background to the study. Under the background, you just tell them what led to your choice of that research area. You cite some relevant literature under the background on what has been done so far in that area. Now, don't forget, under this section, you have to make references to some authors that established the basis for what you want to look into. Cite their names. Of course, you know how to go about that. And you have to do it in such a way that it flows. For example, if you have a work that was done maybe 2015, and you are also making reference to another work done 2020, you will have to list them in a chronological order by stating the 2015 first, then 2020, and up to the recent work that has been done in that area. So having established your background to the study, you can move on to the second part of the introduction, which is the statement of the problem. Now, the problem statement is a very short part of your chapter 1, maybe 2-3 lines. Just state the problem in question you hope to look into. The third section of the introduction is your aim and objectives. Of course, every research work should have an aim, and so what I will advise, your aim and the title of your research should be in tandem, because your aim most times is not different from the title of your research. And so you state your aim in clear terms. It shouldn't be too lengthy. It should be comprehensive in its form. And then you go further to state the objectives one after the other. Okay? And don't forget, in stating all these sections, you have to be very brief. No very lengthy statements. Don't forget it's a proposal, so it's not a research you have carried out already. You're proposing to go about this research work, and so you have to be very, very, very concise. Be sensitive about this all through your write-up. And after your objectives of the research, I think the next part is your scope, or sorry, significance of the research. Some might add scope, but don't leave out the significance, because that is what the panelists would like to see. They want to know how significant the proposed research is to the oil and gas industry. So you have to be very mindful of that. You may not necessarily include scope. It's not compulsory. If you include it, you don't have any problem. But just ensure you don't have a so lengthy document that it now becomes very difficult to read. You have very few minutes to be interviewed for. Okay, so having said that, I think the chapter 2, which is the literature review, just draws a list of authors who have done researches in the area you hope to look into. Try as much as possible to be very current. Ensure you are very well abreast with current trends, current research techniques, current research methodologies, what has been going on in that field, what is going on currently, and it's from your literature review you establish a research gap. Okay, I believe everybody watching this video who is planning to apply for a PhD already has some background knowledge on research, how to prepare a research proposal, and the important points you have to capture. Of course, every literature review usually ends with a research gap. You have identified areas that has been worked on, what several researchers have done in the field over the years. So you have now been able to see a gap in what has been done globally, and you hope to fill in that gap. Please, in as much as you have to include all these things, always be conscious of the fact that it has to be precise. It has to be very, very short. It can be very, very, you see, you can have a lot of points in your work and still keep it very short. You learn some summary skills. You're sure your knowledge of summary is very important here. You have to apply that skill in English language, summary. Okay, now for the chapter 3. Chapter 3 is where you actually cite or list the materials, the methods for your research, the techniques, the sampling techniques, methodologies, the softwares you hope to use for your work in case you are doing a work that requires a software, a modeling software, a simulation software, whatever kind of software you may propose to use for your work. It is in this chapter you cite them, cite the materials first for the research, and cite the methodology. Don't forget that you don't have to show that you have 100% knowledge of what you want to do. It's a proposal, you haven't done it. Of course, some of these things will definitely change. If you've done research in the past, you know that many a times in the process of carrying out your research, the methodologies may tilt along the line. So be mindful of that. And so that's for the methodology. The methodology should, your chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3 should not exceed 3.5 pages. Don't also forget that you don't need a very lengthy procedural statements on how you hope to carry out the research. And what the external assessors are actually looking out for is very important points. Don't forget they are experts in the field. And so if you say things that are out of point, they will be able to know and also track you down. And that may cost you some marks and maybe reduce your chances of getting a scholarship. So please be mindful of that all the time. And I think the last part, chapter 4, is the part where you tell them the expected results. Now, because you have not carried out this research, you are not also going to be definite. So you have not, it's not an analysis of result as you will have in a completed project. Expected results, in that part, you just tell them, oh, by the time you have concluded this research, you hope that this will be the outcome, and that this outcome will be able to solve this particular problem, will be useful in this area, will be able to do that. So just say it in a prospective term, not in a definite term. And I think that should be about maybe 6-7 lines, less than a page. You state your expected results. And the last part of the proposal is the list of references. Now, your list of references should commence on a fresh page. Please, in as much as you have to squeeze everything in a 5-page document, my advice is always ensure each chapter begins on a fresh page. I think it will make it more structurally balanced when you do it that way. Don't just maybe put chapter 2 in the middle of the page. But if you still do that, trust me, you may not have any problem. You won't have any problem doing that. That will just be simply understood that, oh, you're trying to manage space. But just be professional, just be creative with your presentation, and ensure you capture the very important points. Capture it quickly, make it catchy, and when that is done, I believe you'll be able to get a proposal that will get the attention of the external assessors that you have to sit before on the day of your interview. So thank you very much for your time. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel, share this video, share to your friends, to your colleagues, to your classmates, even share it to your enemies, share it to everybody. Anybody you know wants to travel abroad for studies, wants to do a PhD, they need to watch this video. And don't also forget to drop your comments in the comment section